Modern hunter-gatherers are an ever-diminishing group of people and make up many of the endangered peoples of the world that are the subject of Piers Gibbon's book Tribe. It covers indigenous groups from the Abalam of New Guinea to the Zulus of southern Africa and their customs, credos and cultures. A broadcaster and traveller, Piers is no stranger to hunter-gatherers, having visited, with and without television crews, tribes in places like Ecuador, Peru and Papua New Guinea. Piers, welcome. Perhaps we should start off with what is a tribe? How do you define one?
A tribe? Yeah, very good question, because actually it's a word that we got told off for using at university. Yeah. And I think now we're moving more towards the idea that everyone knows what we mean by a tribe, sort of, so we're allowed to use the word again. I think it means anyone who defines themselves as belonging to the same group of people. They've got a political structure. They regard themselves as the people who live here like this. And I think it's probably the best thing is to hand it over to the people themselves. Do you self-define as a tribe? Are you a tribe member? I'm not, but many people would say, yes, I am a member of a tribe and I'm proud to be so.
That's cool. What was your first experience of a tribe?
I guess I grew up in Kuwait. My father's a fighter pilot, and so while he was teaching the Kuwaitis to fly fighter jets, I, a spoilt expat brat, was learning to ride an off-road motorcycle. So I would head off into the desert on a little 50cc dirt bike, and one time came across a Bedouin, and he was herding his goats, goaty, sheepy things, and basically it was my first encounter with someone who I didn't understand anything of the language he was talking, but, liked the guy. He was friendly, and he wanted to go on my dirt bike, and I wanted to go with his sheep. So we did that thing of we didn't share a common language, but we did understand that dirt bike, in exchange for dirt bike, I get to play with the sheep for a bit. And I've never actually told my parents this, but so I lent him the bike, and he zoomed off, and I led the sheep for a bit and watched them do their little nibbling thing. So you were getting fun exchange
and getting involved with the customs, not just
absolutely.
But you were a spoilt brat to have a bike at that age. It was fantastic. Now, one of your early trips to meet hunter-gatherers was into the Peruvian Amazon. How remote were these people, and how did you find them?
Well, we were local guides, as ever, the way forward. But we had to, obviously, do the international flight over to Peru. But then, from Iquitos, which is a jungle city that you can't get to by road, but it's a big metropolis and very, very nice, we then flew on an amphibious plane, which belonged to the Peruvian Air Force, and they dropped us in a little lagoon which had a little village next to it, and we got on, and with shocking suddenness the plane was gone, and we were left there again, got it back into the boats, got into the canoes, get walking, basically. Follow the guide.
And what were the people like? What were the customs that you found there?
Well, fascinating and charming, and they are very. They're all hospitable. I've never come across any one tribe that if you turn up and smile and look friendly and make a fool of yourself, they tend to welcome you in. And what I was interested for that, I was making a program called Jungle Trip, and we were interested in looking at the customs of the medicinal plants and the rituals that they use. And they're hunter-gatherers, they kind of tending to stay in one place at the moment, but they still have their kind of jungle technology of using a frog poison as a way of making you a better hunter. And they've discovered that this frog poison, in order to get it out of the frog, you have to torture the frog, which is a little challenging for a Westerner to watch. But so they torture this frog, and it exudes a poison. And they found somehow that this poison only works if you get it into your bloodstream. And if you're in the middle of the jungle, how do you get something into your bloodstream? You don't have a hypodermic needle. You have to do something different. So what they did, and what they do, is they burn holes in your arm with a burning ember and put it to your arm and just sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. And then they wait for the blisters to come up. And then the best hunter in the tribe then scrapes it off with his supremely dirty thumbnail, so exposing raw flesh underneath. And then the frog poison is then applied to that, and you are sent on your merry way for the most appalling half an hour of my life. It was horrendous. And I read the books before I went, and apparently you're supposed to experience great visions, but I experienced nothing apart from feeling like I was going to die, and then really wanting to die. It was just horrible.
On that trip, you also took snuff. Did that help, or was that again another bad experience?
No, it was a mere light relief. It's Nunu snuff, basically a tobacco-based, as far as we can work out, with no additives. A nice bright green powder that they scoop up into a tube and then put it up your nose and go
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so direct application of snuff to the nasal membranes, and it feels like absolutely having it applied to your brain.
Well, you're still looking in remarkable good shape that you've been to put yourself through. Does it make a difference? Do people respect you for that, or would they rather just that you look to them, maybe photograph them, or is it important to actually get down and do it with them?
I felt so, and I felt that rather than just getting them to talk about why do you do this, to actually experience it, and it means I can come back from that half hour of hell and say, I saw no visions. It seems to me to be about confronting your inner demons, and it felt like all defences were down, all your shields were down. And they said, yes, that's exactly what happens to us too, and it will stop you being lazy for at least a year. So that year's long gone, and I'm way back, and I now need more, and I don't want to do it again, but I noticed the other day, searching the internet, that Sapo frog poison is actually available on the internet. You can now buy it.
Oh, well, I'm feeling a bit sluggish. I might go for a bit of that. But no, as well as getting involved with their customs, what do you go along to help sort of break the ice when you're there?
Well, I found that, we do have local guides, as ever, but as I said earlier, if you make a fool of yourself, I think they particularly appreciate it. And so I use a Jew's harp, which I got from the Hmong people of Laos, and I've just found that basically most continents, most tribal people seem to have discovered a similar kind of instrument. So it's quite fun to get it out. And
you've got one. You've got to just show me how you break the ice in remote spots.
So it's good morning. My name is Piers, and then.
Well, I'm convinced. I mean, do you take spares with you? Because presumably people who don't know the instrument will think, could we have one, please?
Definitely, and I carry with me about usually about 100 bamboo Jew's harps, kubings they're called, made by the Filipino hill tribes, and therefore they're nice and light. They don't show up on airport metal detectors, so I don't get arrested, and you can hand them out, and it's nice to have an exchange, to actually say, here's something from the other side of the world, and thank you for your food, here's a gift for you.
Last week on the programme we were hearing from Bianca Jagan. She was telling us about the clash between the Kon people of the Niyamgiri mountain in Orissa in northern India and the mining interests that have been moving in there. I mean, do you think the big industries are a threat to these last remaining tribes that you've been getting to know?
Absolutely, and I think the sorry inevitability of it is that they've been pushed often to the margins of society and the margins of geography, so they find themselves in sort of remote rainforest areas or remote mountainous areas, and just the awful law is that those happen to be the places where mineral reserves are found, petrochemicals are found, and therefore I was out in Papua New Guinea filming a program called Dining with Cannibals. And they basically, you'd see occasional little huts there with petrochemical logos on them, and you just think, okay, if I come back here in 10 years' time, this is not going to be a tiny little village anymore.
What about, I'm thinking, one of the world's biggest industries, tourism. I mean, how do you see that? It's not quite the same as digging up the landscape for a mine or for a well, but it still can be intrusive. It can bring disease as well as perhaps cash.
Yes, and I don't fool myself that I'm somehow special and therefore allowed to go where no one else is allowed to go. I think I like to feel that when I go and hand out Jew's harps and get involved with what they're doing, it feels an equal exchange and it feels good. And yet, yes, you do have to accept that large quantities of people rocking up and bringing shiny goods with them will change the system. I'm a great believer in trade and aid, and therefore I like an exchange of goods is good. But when we rock up there and kick people out of their lands, I mean, that's obviously, it's appalling. And one has to be optimistic that we're getting better at it.
I mean, do you think that remote tribes can stay like that in the modern world? Can they keep their old ways?
It doesn't look like it. It looks like the inevitable way is that people get more connected, and the Western world is finding its way into every corner of the planet. And there are still uncontacted or less contacted people, and some would say leave them. And I think the Sentinelese, the government there has just said leave them alone, and that's probably a good thing. But it does look inevitable that contact will be made. And I hope with the programmes, especially for the National Geographic Channel, they really care about it and they really want to make sure that the programme that they are sponsoring is not part of the problem but is part of the solution.
OK, Piers, thanks very much. Let us turn to more northerly latitudes now and the tribes that inhabited the islands off the west coast of Scotland, known generally as the Hebrides.